Welcome to the last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast, brought to you by Dietzel Man Productions.
And you go to college and you're on this all-star team. And so I would tell myself that really don't listen to that voice inside your head that tells you you're not good enough. And probably the other thing I would tell myself is get more sleep.
Not everyone's gonna like you, but try to make them want to. Still working on that one.
People say, oh, I'm not going to have kids yet because it's not the right time, or I'm not going to get married yet because it's not the right time. Well, if you keep moving the goalposts in life, it's never going to be the right time. So enjoy your life.
Do what you love for a living. Figure out a way to make that work. Don't do something because it's what you're supposed to do or because it's going to be the most fun. You do something that makes you happy.
Take going to Landers for lunch. Sitting around Jeff Blair's Mustang 2 and listening to his tape of Creek Road Walk.
Hey, this is Scott Townsend. Welcome back to the last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast. And today I have with me a good friend, old friend. Of course, we're all old at this point. Matt Newman. Matt, how's it going?
It is going great, Scott. It has been so enjoyable watching these podcasts, listening to the podcast. I either watch them at the gym, listen to them while I'm driving. I can't wait for our reunion. This has just really prepped me to continue to reach out to folks. So pleasure to be here.
Someone said the other day on Facebook that they feel like they know their classmates better now than they did when they were actually in high school.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way. You know, there are folks that you've interviewed that I would see in the hallway. Mm-hmm. And we were so absorbed with our little clique, our boyfriend, girlfriend, other relationships, work, sports, and you'd have time with folks in a classroom, but you didn't have engagement in those classrooms. Right. So it has been a thrill to watch these and listen to these podcasts and get to know my classmates better.
Yeah. So you're the principal managing partner with New Era Advisors. You're a father, husband, all around great guy,
Well, 2 of the 3 out of 2 out of 3 isn't bad.
So what's been going on the last 39 years since Wow. Can you sum it all up in 2 minutes?
You bet.
Ready, set, go.
You bet. So, married in college, divorced soon after, started in the energy business. Met a young lady, native Tulsan, and we were married, instantly moved her to Houston in the energy business. And then we had an opportunity to move to Charlotte, North Carolina, and worked in the electricity utility industry for about a third of my career. Mm-hmm. Great tour of duty, great friends, great community. And then left that sector and spent about a third of my career in renewable energy and innovative technologies, and had the opportunity to live in the kind of New York City metro area, which was so cool. Fun. Oh my gosh. That is, if I won the lottery, I would have a Central Park South apartment just to go hang out and visit. I love New York City. Huh. So it's just so much fun. But business brought me, we had a goal of getting back to Tulsa. Of course, our high school friends and college friends and other friends live here. My wife's whole family is here. Oh, yeah. So we had a desire to move back to the Tulsa area, and took us 17 years to get back. But we're here, and we're here.
You made it.
We made it. We have made it. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. A couple of kids in there.
Throw in a couple of kids, and that's awesome. What do you think 2022 is going to be like?
Yeah. It's got to be better than 2021. I'm an extrovert. I like to interact with people. Yeah. As Tracy mentioned, we've got a group of College High Wildcat boys that get together on a regular basis, and that definitely recharges my batteries. So being sequestered to your house was tough, and sequestered travel has been tough. But from a business standpoint, I think I think the economy is just ready to launch. There's so many things, so many factors that come together, and I'm involved with I chair a U.S. Department of Commerce advisory board. So I get to see kind of a national viewpoint, macro viewpoint, which also takes in some global supply chain and interaction. So I'm the eternal optimist, and I think 2022 is going to be fantastic. I really do.
What are some of the big questions you have about what's coming up in 2022? Are there any concerns going into it? Any questions that you have in your mind about how things are going to shake out from a health standpoint or business standpoint?
Well, I think Americans are very resilient and very creative. And I think COVID has taught us that we've got a little bit complacent, a little bit, we've offshored too much of our critical supply chain. This is an example. We can't make aspirin in the United States. Our pharmaceutical feedstocks don't come in. They're not made in the United States. They come into ports. So I think there's definitely one of the big initiatives is to look at what is critical to our economy and what do we need to do to bolster that supply chain resiliency. So I put it this way, at a national level, if we had a problem with clean water supply in the United States, and I'm not talking about a drought in California or a flood in Louisiana, or anything like, just if we had a national problem with clean drinking water and industrial qualities of water, we would fix it. No doubt in my mind, we would fix it.
Oh, yeah.
So confident of that. So as we identify what we need to work on and what we need to do, there will be a full court press to solve that. And that's what's exciting about 2022.
Going back to Bartlesville, what was life like for you growing up in Bartlesville, or did you grow up in Bartlesville?
Yeah.
How'd that all shake out?
Yeah, I moved around a lot. My dad was a businessman. We moved around the United States quite a bit. We moved from Central Florida to Bartlesville the last 9 weeks of our freshman year. So I walk in the last 9 weeks to Central, and I've moved around a lot, so I'm kind of used to moving around, but it was a tough integration because everybody was getting ready for the year to end, and I'm trying to make connections. But it took a bit to kind of crack in a little into some, the cliques, because you all grew up together.
Right.
Right. I was honestly, I was very envious of how you folks, seems like everybody grew up together. And you had some other outliers, Phillips bringing people in,
right.
Some new people, but it was a great place to grow up. And I think Tracy and Kent, both mentioned this. We were super blessed. Multiple interviewees have mentioned this. Big small town, education second to none, well-funded education, phenomenal teachers, phenomenal administration, safe.
Yeah.
Right. Our peers were good people. Can't say that about every community.
Right.
And if you did anything, good or bad, everyone would know. Everyone would know. And, the parents would definitely know. And, Chris Zervis and I got into some trouble together, not bad trouble, just mischievous trouble.
That's guys, we're going to get in trouble. I mean, there's no excusing that away. It's just, if you didn't, that would be a bigger problem. Yeah.
And he's such a great guy. He's one of my lighthouses in life, and we still stay in touch together. As a matter of fact, we spoke this week. But we did a little mischief, and we got pulled over by the police, and they said, you need to go home, and your parents are waiting for you, Chris. And we may talk about this in a bit. I didn't have parents at home. So luckily Chris was driving.
Yeah.
Actually would have been lucky if they would have said, Matt, you need to go home.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we go to Chris's, and Dr. Zervis and Mrs. Zervis are hosting a pretty well-populated social event in the house. And we have to walk into this room full of adults. And basically, we were so busted. And if you think about it, they're about our age.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. In the mid-50s, probably.
Yeah. So they're basically our age. And here come, Chris and Matt walking in with their tails between their legs, and we're sorry. Shucks. And I'm sure everybody in the room was just cracking up. It was such a minor thing. It was no big deal, but we were just mortified.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So who were some of your, so you moved to Bartlesville, ninth grade, you're in Central, then you got out of Central and moved up College High. And so who were some of your, I don't know, who were some of the friends you befriended first, probably?
Yeah, well, sports is such a great social lubricant. So I got into the football program, and it's just a highlight of growing up in Bartlesville, because I just enjoy the camaraderie. I enjoy the physicality of football. Mm-hmm. There's a bit of pain involved, and it's kind of fun. And your younger brother can probably attest to that. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun. But, Chris Zervis, Kent Hudson, Tracy Robinette, Jeff Blair, Greg Brewer, Gordy Falkins.
Yeah.
And Gordy Falkins' family, my family, spent some time together. Our friends were family as well, so we did some holidays together. Early on, Dana Brock, Sydney Brannon, Lisa Hutchins. It's funny how I'm sure we all did this. You shift a little bit, maybe our sophomore year, Dana and Lisa and Greg Brewer and I did a lot of hanging out together. Completely platonic, but just really good friends. Mm-hmm. And, then we start getting to that dating scene, right? Everybody starts to get a little bit more serious and date people. And as Kent Hudson mentioned, you kind of get sucked into that, and you kind of miss the interaction with the boys.
Right. Right. You, mentioned your parents. You want to go into that?
Yeah. So, these days, this would never happen. But I mentioned I moved around quite a bit growing up. And my dad came home one day and said his businesses were doing well. And he had a great report. He bought a house on the beach in St. Augustine, Florida, and we're all moving. And I said, yeah, I'm not moving. I'm playing ball. I've got my friends. And I just really don't want to do this again, and move to St. Augustine, Florida, and start all over again.
Yeah.
So we made a deal. He would come back from time to time, and we made a deal. He would pay the mortgage, and I would pay all the utilities. I get good grades and stay out of trouble. And he owned 50-Minute Photo in Eastland, that Eastland Mall, that Eastland Center.
Yeah.
And so he had.
I remember that.
Yeah, so he had employees to watch after me, so I couldn't miss work. I had to get good grades. And then he would come home, and make sure the house was in order. Now, one of the mistakes he made, and to this day, he doesn't know this, so I know he's not going to watch this podcast, but he had a 1974 T-top Corvette, quadrajet 4-barrel, her shift, and it saw Osage County quite a bit. And he, to this day, never knew that I took that thing out and just opened it up. Gosh, that big straightaway that goes up the hill past Circle Mountain, the entrance to Circle Mountain, that's Osage County. Just praying that a highway patrolman wasn't anywhere near us.
Thank you for listening to the last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast. And we'll be right back after this.
Pop's Daylight Donuts, man, they've got the best tasting donuts
sausage wraps, pastries, in Northeast Oklahoma. And also, if you'll tell the staff there, hey, Scott Townsend said to give me a large spicy pig, they'll give you a free large spicy sausage wrap. But you have to tell them Scott Townsend sent you. So tell them, hey, Scott Townsend told me to tell you to give me a large spicy pig. So there's the offer. There's the call to action. So go to Pop's Daylight Donuts. Say hi to Mark for me. And yeah, go to Pop's Daylight Donuts and get you some.
If you've enjoyed this podcast in 2021, you have my patrons to thank for that. A bunch of Wildcats got together and created a GoFundMe account to help in the production of this podcast. With that in mind, I've started a Patreon page so that listeners can help support the last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast on a month-to-month basis. There are different levels of membership, so please check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/Wildcats1982. And now back to the show.
Lived alone had to basically be super grown up and responsible early, and pay utility bills and buy food, go grocery shopping.
Man.
And thank goodness I was in Bartlesville, because another friend that I didn't mention is an underclassman, Alan Merle.
Yeah.
And he was a racquetball phenom.
Racquetball.
Never played. He would have fun hitting me, and he could hit me no matter where I was on the court. And he could pick the place where he's going to hit me. But his mom was so gracious, and in Bartlesville, many people didn't lock their doors. So I was at work and would go run to get something to eat, and I'd run over to Mrs. Merle's to sit down with them and Alan, and she would always make me a sandwich or something. And no one's home, but the door's open. They got to eat. So I'd go in and make a sandwich and leave a note for Mrs. Merle. Thank you for the sandwich, and wish you were here.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I didn't know that. I didn't realize. Was this a secret, or was it well known?
Yeah.
Or
it was not well known, and I didn't know that Glenn Goodrich was living with Mark Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot more responsible.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting. They had kind of like the basement, freshman dorm going on.
Right. And somebody else, I think.
It wasn't well known. My close friends knew, so that if somebody didn't want to go home, I'm going to go stay over at the Newmans, and they would come crash. And, Gordy Falkins did that a few times, and nothing out of hand, nothing terrible. I was ridiculously responsible.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I'm sure there was a party or two in there somewhere that might have happened.
Yeah. And James Dennison was there, and the whole cast of crew Dunaway, and I was just getting everybody out of that house. They were wrecking my house. Get out of my house.
Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Oh man. So I have a question here. It says, what kind of car did you drive? I guess you were driving a Corvette.
No, well,
unbeknownst to
that I had to be very strategic with. Now I had a beat up pickup truck my freshman or sophomore year, and then I bought a '73 Chevy Vega. That was just no air conditioning.
Yeah.
Standard four on the floor.
I think David Neer had a Vega at one point.
Yeah, this thing was like candy apple red. It worked. What was the car stereo place?
Craco or
no. One of our classmates worked there.
Yeah, Keith worked there.
Yeah, Keith.
It was
they hooked me up, and of course I had a stereo in it, and a equalizer amplifier. Got me to school, got me to work. Drove it all through college, and it worked well. But I was envious of folks like Karen Oakley that would drive up in a brand new car every other day, right? Or it was easy to be envious of your peers.
Yeah,
they weren't driving a piece of crap '73 Chevy Vega.
I was looking through the yearbook and I saw several pictures of you on the football team, and it looked like there was a Col-Hi day. I don't remember what that was all about really, but there was you were in your football uniform, and I think Jimmy Webb was in there, and Pam Peterson, and you were the captain of the football team, right?
Yeah, and I crowned the queen.
Right.
Pam Peterson Arbor. Now we were very, 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 very good friends. So I adore her, you know, and I just kind of made a decision to really plant one on her after I crowned her.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the picture, she's pushing away. You know, that was not the gentlemanly thing. And I really thought about it. I thought, oh, I'll just kiss her on the cheek.
Yeah.
You know, and then, my gosh, man, this is the last year.
That's a moment, man. That's a moment. You gotta seize the moment.
And
Carpe diem.
It was not appropriate, but she was cracking up. You know, when we parted, she was cracking up, and she went to OU, and I saw her at OU quite a bit, and we just kind of laughed about it. But when I walked back from the football field, the guy that she was dating was less than pleased with me, and you know, was basically calling me out after the game, kind of thing. And I'm like, game on, you know, let's bring. Of course, nothing ever happened.
Right.
It was all for fun. It was all in good fun, good friendship.
Yeah.
And by the way, you know, being the captain, first of all, I was barely a mediocre football player. I mean, there was so much more talent on that team, but I just really enjoyed the camaraderie, enjoyed the game, enjoyed the sport of it. And I remember, you know, Coach Ripley coming in and saying, Newman, go crown the queen. I mean, literally, like, we got to go get somebody out there. And there were, I thought he was joking.
Yeah. Now, was this outside during the football game, or was it in the gymnasium?
We did it before the football game instead of doing it at halftime. Because he felt like we needed the downtime, the coaching, even though our senior year, our record was just the worst ever, you know, but incredibly good memories from playing ball. You know, there's so many people that took it so seriously, and I had just so much fun. George Davis made it fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, Ken Hudson made it fun. There was one moment, you know, big dog pile after a play, and Ken Hudson's face mask is against my face mask, and he's growling. I mean, you know, he's just really into it, and I'm cracking up. So we're face mask to face mask. If the face masks weren't there, we would be kissing. and he's just, you know, Mr. Aggression, and I'm cracking up. You know, and another fond memory from playing ball. One of the folks you interviewed, I think it was it Todd? No. John, that did some of the spotting and the broadcasting. Somebody did some broadcasting.
John Hensley?
Yeah, John Hensley. So I don't know if John Hensley played ball, so he couldn't have been in there. But remember, Mr. Gay would do the color commentary. He would announce. Yeah. And I did one of my favorite teachers. Yeah. And you know, after the play, he would say, you know, and so-and-so, and Matt Newman in on the tackle. And I'm like standing by the pile, not involved in any of this. And I would just look up to the press box.
Thanks, Mr. Gay.
You know, like, really? It was, and he did it more often than you'd think. It was entertaining. I remember that, playing ball.
So there you go. There's another one of my questions. Any funny stories you can tell? There's several right there.
There's one I'll share with you. We were at an away game, and I'm really hard to embarrass, to get embarrassed, you know. And we're in the locker room getting ready, and you got to go out and do your calisthenics and warm up, and you just grab your helmet and go out there. And when I was getting ready, I had a unique way of dressing. So I had like a wrestling undergarment, and your athletic protector I would put over that, and then a pair of shorts, and then your football pants. Mm-hmm. And I had kind of the wrestling thing and the athletic protector. And coach came out and said, on the field right now, let's warm up. Go, go, go. And I'm like, I got to get dressed now. So I grabbed my helmet and ran out. And I had led the athletic warm-ups. So we're on the field. I'm leading everybody in jumping jacks with an athletic protector on the outside garment. I thought it was hilarious. Personally, I thought it was hilarious.
Oh my gosh, that's
the coach
great.
Coach laughed. He didn't think it was appropriate, but we worked through that.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. You stay in touch with any of your high school friends up to this point?
Yeah. Just as I said, I just spoke with Chris Zervis.
That's
he was
right.
traveling down to Texas, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing? You want to go to Texas with me for a few days?" I'm like, "Dude, you got to give me more than 15 minutes." But yeah, we get 5, 6, 7 folks together regularly. Pre-COVID, we did it often. Every quarter or so. Mark Troxel, Scott Crawley, Tracy Robinette, Gordy Falkins, Butch Bolin. Ron came up for a couple of these. I'm leaving folks out. I know we've invited Jimmy Webb a bunch of times, but he's busy in Bartlesville. Tracy is pulling together the lunch for December.
Yeah.
So we'll just get together, and it's just Greg Brewer is part of that group. It just recharges my batteries to hang out with these guys and get
that's a good
caught
way
up.
of putting it.
Yeah.
Of all the high school people, friends that you've had, and that you know of, if I were to say, I wonder whatever happened to, what would you?
Yeah. George Davis. He was a linebacker, and he was soft-spoken with a really dry sense of humor, but super smart.
Yeah.
Just really a smart guy. And I had an opportunity from your podcast. I caught up with Cindy Hayes.
Oh, yeah.
And Cindy and George had gone to college together, both studied chemical engineering. So I got kind of a little update, on what George was up to. There's, Scott, I could probably pull 4 or 5 or 6 names out of the hat.
A couple of questions regarding, just overall, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment in the last 39 years?
So, kind of 3 different buckets. So, first, very cliche, my kids. I've always wanted to be a dad and try my best to be a good dad. And we've got a 24-year-old son that was born in Houston, and a 20-year-old daughter that was born in Charlotte, North Carolina. And our son is engaged and lives in Oklahoma City, and he's working. And our daughter is at OU, followed in his father, and my wife was also an OU grad. So she decided to follow in our footsteps. So hands down, that is my lifelong biggest accomplishment, on earth.
Right.
On a professional side, being at the right place at the right time, making the right decision. I was at Duke Power and did something that was kind of the poster child for ethical business practice. And the chairman and CEO put me on the cover of the annual report.
Oh man!
And that I think we were a Fortune 17 company at the time. Or definitely Fortune 20 or Fortune 50.
Yeah.
That's super heady. And I was held up in big meetings and asked to talk about business ethics and things like that. And that cover of the annual report and $3 will get me a cup of coffee at Starbucks, right?
Right.
So it's cool, and there was financial reward there, but it's pretty hollow. But on a professional basis, what I'm most proud of, the single biggest accomplishment, when I moved back to Tulsa, I worked for a renewable energy company, and the opioid pandemic, that's just horrible, is a big problem. And the the director of the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics, I had heard, was trying to pull together a program to put drop boxes in every county in Oklahoma where citizens could drop their unused, unwanted prescription meds so they don't flush them down the toilet, but also get them out of kids' hands.
Mm-hmm.
Because the overdose death rate in Oklahoma is still absolutely unacceptable. And unfortunately, about 7 months ago, I lost my nephew to a drug overdose.
Oh, wow. Sorry to hear that.
But yeah, it's so, you know, with our other classmates that have lost children, this was my boy. You know, he was very, very close to us, and he was like a second son. But rolling back to the program, I remember calling up Director Weaver and saying, great program, you're going to collect all these drugs, what are you going to do with them? And he goes, well, we haven't figured that out yet. I said, you bring them up here and we'll destroy them for free. Now he's a cop, you know, and free, you know, he's very skeptical. And it took us about a year to earn his trust, which we did. And I said, when we attain 100,000 pounds of prescription meds destroyed, I want to be an honorary Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics agent. I want a badge. Don't want a gun, but it'd be just cool to have a badge. Yeah. And he goes, Newman, you're not getting a badge. Ever. You're never getting a badge. And he goes, I'd be amazed if we hit 100,000 pounds of prescription meds. And we sailed over 100,000 pounds of pills. Just think about 100,000 pounds of pills that we got off the street. So the, you know, immeasurable number of lives that we saved, you know, and the environmental protection aspect of that. And Daryl, because of that program, we were awarded the Keep Oklahoma Beautiful Towering Spirit Award, and we were awarded the Henry Bellman Sustainability Award. And it wasn't me, and it wasn't the company I worked for. It was the partnership, the public-private partnership. So I said, I'll accept these awards under one condition. The award goes to the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics as well. You got to put that on the placard, and we're both on the stage. Mm-hmm. So by far, the greatest professional accomplishment that I've had.
That's great. Huh. Speaking of professional accomplishments, where's my, you were lately, I guess, involved in this hydrogen sustainability initiative with members of the state government, STIT and those guys, and I'll throw up a picture here that you sent over. This is you.
Yeah, so this just happened. This is the legislation. There was some legislation that created the Oklahoma Hydrogen Task Force. And Secretary Wagner, who's the Secretary of Energy and Environment, asked me to help him. So I'm advising him on all things hydrogen, which is very innovative. And I served as a facilitator for the Oklahoma Hydrogen Task Force. And so, you know, there's a senator, a representative, a couple of representatives, the head of research for the University of Oklahoma, the Water Resource Board executive, somebody from the Department of Transportation, somebody from OCAS, the Oklahoma Center for Advancement of Science and Technology, and I've served on that board in the past. Really powerful group, tasked to pull together a roadmap for Oklahoma's participation in this hydrogen economy. And it included subcommittees and 50 or 60 or 70 stakeholders attending meetings and getting input, and ultimately providing the picture shows us delivering the report. And that was part of the legislation to deliver the report to Governor Stitt, the President Pro Tem, and the Secretary of the House. And we accomplished that. And that's really just the launch. Now the business now really gets going. Now we start to implement the plan.
So just, you know, bringing it down to the common Joe and myself, what is the hydrogen economy? Break that down for me. What is that? And just
so we're all familiar with oil and gas.
Yep.
And the natural gas business.
Yeah.
And we're familiar with wind and renewable energy. And Oklahoma exports about 65% of our energy. So we're kind of a breadbasket for oil and gas exports and for renewable energy exports. And the globe, you know, the whole world economy is looking at sustainability, environmental social governance, reducing your greenhouse gas footprint. And hydrogen is a really effective fuel. It's a really effective energy source.
How do we get hydrogen?
Hydrogen. So we're going to do going back to our year in chemistry.
Yeah.
Gene, wasn't our chemistry
Simmons?
teacher?
Was it
No,
Gene?
it may have been it. I'd have to look it up. I remember Gene, you know, so hydrogen is
Gene Dean. Was it
Gene Dean? There you go. Thank you, Gene Dean. So, you know, hydrogen is the lightest element. It's all the way up on the far left-hand side of the periodic table. It unfortunately, it doesn't like to be alone. It likes to hang out with oxygen. That's water. You know, it likes sulfur. It likes carbon. Likes to hang out with other elements. So it doesn't really exist anywhere in nature alone.
Okay.
So you have to basically use some product, some feedstock, and that product can be natural gas, which is carbon and 4 hydrogens. And you crack the 4 hydrogens off the carbon, and now you've got hydrogen.
Okay.
Or you can use water via electrolysis, and you crack the H2 off the O, and now you've got hydrogen and oxygen. And with water, you can use wind and solar. So you have a transportation fuel or an industrial fuel that has no carbon. If you put it in we had an opportunity to tour some facilities in Germany recently, and we rode on a hydrogen powered bus, and the exhaust is water and steam. And the first thing you'll notice, you know, it's like an electric bus. You know, the first thing you notice is everybody piles onto the bus and you're talking and you can actually hear each other.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
No internal combustion engine.
It seems like the transportation sector is prime for this kind of fuel source, I guess what you call it.
Yes. And it absolutely, you know, especially in, you know, communities like LA and Salt Lake City and Atlanta, New York, you know, Chicago.
Yeah.
You know, big metropolitan areas that have air quality issues.
So the car, if I want to use hydrogen fuel, what I would do, go up to the pump. This is just me being stupid because I'm ignorant here about this. I know oil and gas, but the hydrogen, I need you to help me with that. So I'll go to the pump and I pump water into the car, or what?
Nope. You'd pump hydrogen. It's just like compressed natural gas. You've seen some compressed natural gas stations, especially on the turnpike. If you ever go down to Oklahoma City, you know, you see at the center island center station, you know, diesel, gas, and then CNG. So it'll move around like compressed natural gas moves around, and you charge up a tank just like you charge up a compressed natural gas tank.
Okay.
And you know, the difference is the industry is kind of leaning into fuel cells, which is all pretty much like solid state. There's no internal combustion. There's no moving parts. You'll see internal combustion engines that'll run on hydrogen coming.
Okay.
But you basically use the hydrogen to make electricity, and your output, your exhaust, is heat and water. Yeah.
So you got involved with this through your New Era Advisors position?
Yeah. Yes. You know, so it's an honor to serve the state. And you know, when you get that call to action, just like your commercial for donuts, call to action. So when you have a call to action,
there's your call to action.
My first response, and I think everyone's first response in their head should be, yes, how can I fit this on my calendar?
What's the advantages of the hydrogen economy other than you know, the exhaust being water and steam? What are the other advantages if this were to take off?
Yeah, well, you got it. It's a clean energy fuel. It's also another pathway, another outlet for our vast natural gas supplies. Because the other way, as I mentioned, 2 ways right now to make hydrogen is cracking natural gas. And that happens here outside of Tulsa and also in Enid, Oklahoma, the places that make fertilizer or make ammonia. You crack the hydrogen apart from the carbon, then use the hydrogen and nitrogen to make ammonia. And those are all fed by natural gas. So if you're in the natural gas business and somebody's willing to come in and say, hey, I can make demand for your product, you know, that's a new pathway for our vast quantities of natural gas that have powered the nation, you know, powered the state, powered the nation for generations.
That's so cool. So why wouldn't we do this?
We are doing it. That's what that report was about. Let's make it happen. And we're already doing it. Like I said, we got the ammonia plants doing this stuff. And then also just outside of Tulsa, we have companies that are building the parts and pieces necessary, you know, the processing equipment and, you know, the pumps and compressors, and they're building them here and sending them to California and sending them to, you know, the Northeast.
Yeah.
And let's build that up.
Well, that's awesome.
You know, more jobs in manufacturing for us.
That's fascinating. My clock is running out on us here. One of the last questions that I have, you know, I asked you about your greatest accomplishment. Have you had any disappointments? Have you had anything that life lessons or teachable moments over the last 39 years that?
Yeah. And unfortunately, you know, when we think of that, you think of the stuff that didn't go well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still trying to figure this out. But, you know, when I was in Charlotte, you know, my best friend in the whole world, just my bro mate, was diagnosed with a fatal form of brain cancer. You know, the prognosis was a 1% chance of living 12 months. And a young guy, you know, looked like Superman, looked like Clark Kent. We were inseparable, just really, really close friends. And luckily, my career allowed me to serve as his medical advocate. So there's a lot of God's hand in this, you know. So you find out about this, and then the best, you know, neuro-oncologist, you know, you think of the Mayo Clinic, but right there with the Mayo Clinic is Duke University. They have an incredible neuro-oncology department, and it just so happened I had a connection. And they do not take people, you know. It's a unique relationship. So it just worked out, and we got him in, and he lived for 16 or 17 months. Wow. And we battled that terrible disease, you know, together. And it was tough. It was really tough to watch your best friend go through that, and then, you know, be there when he passes away. And he left, you know, our best friends, his wife, and 2 awesome kids. So there were a lot of lessons in there, you know. The things that I took seriously before that are not so serious now. You know, your parents always taught you, don't worry about the little stuff. You know, focus on the big picture. And that absolutely solidified that. And be there, not just for your family, be there for your friends.
Yeah, those are some awesome lessons there. I should do a better job at that. I guess I'm kind of trying to do that with this, you know.
You are doing that. That's right. You just think about all the joy you're bringing.
You know, I've told other people this before. This is kind of like a love letter to the class of '82, you know. Yeah. And you think of all the wisdom, like when I was writing that note to Lisa Hutchins on Facebook, you know, if you think of all the people that we've interviewed and the 39 years of wisdom that's been accumulated per person, you know, 26 people, well, it's 296 graduates, 30 times 39. That's a lot of experience.
Yeah.
A lot of wisdom, you know. And so it's great to be able to share that with each other. You know, everybody's got a different perspective of the same mountain. And, you know, you know, you have a different perspective on things, and I every time I listen to you guys talk, I get something. I don't know. I feel like I'm the only one benefiting from this because I get to hear it, you know. But I'm not. There's a lot of people listening and watching.
That's the important part of staying close with your friends and staying in touch. My friends, as the College High guys that get together for lunch, I learn from them every time we get together. Not so much from Bush bowling. You know, well, maybe a little.
Wrapping it up, my last question, like I ask everybody, is, you're at your graduation, 18-year-old self, you're looking at Matt Newman walking across the stage, and as he steps off, you walk up to him, and knowing what you know now, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
We should have put a second car in the lobby. Number one.
Yeah.
No, I think, that's a hard one, because I think that the lesson was, it was a great accomplishment. Move on to the next one. Keep your focus. Work hard. Be good to people, and never burn a bridge. And if you live by that, I think you're going to be just fine. And it does get easier. It's still pretty tough, but high school was pretty tough. College was pretty tough, but high school was definitely, not as fun as it may have been for others.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go, Matt. I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else that you want to say? Any last words you want to say to the Wildcats out there listening, watching?
Yeah, just go to the reunion. Let's get together and not just one night, one event. I'm sure we're going to have a whole bunch of different opportunities to network and visit. And I personally just confident we're going to walk away from the event going, man, I wish we had 2 more hours. I wish I could have connected with this person and that person, this person. So come up and let's all get together and break bread and have some fun.
All right. Well, Matt, have a great 2022. I hope this year for you and your family is just gangbusters.
Yeah, thank you. And again, man, thank you for doing this. And
you bet.
This is one podcast I won't watch.
You won't watch?
No, not watch. I was here.
You did it. All right. Well, for Matt Newman, this is Scott Townsend. Thanks for watching, listening to the last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.
The last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast is a Deep Soul Man production. For more episodes, visit the Last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 YouTube channel, listen on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.